What's up, everybody? It's Clark here for the BOS Sports Blogcast here. Ahead of the All-Star break here in Atlanta, All-Star game here in Atlanta, as us Braves fans are facing a bittersweet All-Star break as the Braves are struggling at 42-53, 11 games under 500, and 9.5 games back in the wild card standings. Of course, the Braves at Truist Park, home run derby tomorrow night. All-Star game Tuesday night. The Braves over the last 10 games are 3-7 in a season that has once again been marred by injuries and timely misfortune. The Braves are one of three teams under 500 in Major League Baseball that do have a positive run differential, having a +2, joining both the Diamondbacks and Rangers. And unfortunately, we've seen both Chris Sale and Spencer Schwellenbach, two of the top key rotation pieces for the Braves, go down to injury as well earlier this season as well. Reynaldo Lopez. So looking ahead to this Braves trade deadline here in Major League Baseball, and this Braves team, some have speculated them as to be a seller, and I've certainly examined in previous episodes two of course expiring contracts most looked at in Major League Baseball, of course, being expiring contracts ahead of trade deadline for a team looking to potentially trade away major league talent. That, of course, would be Marcell Ozuna and Raisel Iglesias. Tonight, mainly focused on the BOS Sports Blogcast, the highlights of live segment so far. So we'll have some clip replays here later in the episode, but we'll have a little bit of talk as well, examining those two trade possibilities for the Atlanta Braves, as well as potentially others as well. Aaron Bummer, Pierce Johnson, he has a team option beyond this year. He is controlled beyond the season. Aaron Bummer controlled further under contract. And Dylan Lee, he's still in arbitration, so want to avoid potentially trading away those pieces. But for the right return for the Braves, potentially be considered for the Braves. Of course, Matt Olson, Austin Riley, Sean Murphy, they've been struggling over the last year or so, but recently over the last couple of months have shown exactly their flashes of brilliance and why they should stay with this Atlanta Braves team for the long-term future and duration of their contracts. Should not be considered for trade as well. The talks of Ronald Acuna Jr. being traded away from the Braves are absolutely ridiculous. Just a bunch of engagement harming and content generation, which I'm not against. Some content is much needed. So back to the Braves and their hopes for the playoff picture. As aforementioned, they're 9.5 games under 9.5 games back the wild card, 11 games under 500. And that's better than only 3 teams in the National League. Of course, better than the Pirates, who are 13.5 games behind the last spot, the wild card, 14 games behind the Nationals. Nationals are 14 games behind the last wild card pot. And Rockies, 30 games back with the worst record in baseball. So within striking distance, the Braves, big hurdles as far as going on a run to potentially secure one of the last spots in the wild card here in the National League. Of course, the rotation, the offense has been picking up recently. And coming straight out of the All-Star break, they're facing the Yankees, one of the better teams in the league so far this year. After that, they face all teams under 500. So Rangers with a +47 run differential, one of the few teams under 500 at All-Star break with a positive run differential. Joining the Atlanta Braves, they're certainly not the average under 500 team, I believe at 49-50 so far this season. And as well, the Royals, they're a decent team as well. The Braves are facing out of the All-Star break. Other than that, they're also facing teams they're looking at above them in the NL wildcard standings, including the Reds, Brewers, Mets, Giants, and Marlins between June 21st and August 21st. The future and the Atlanta Braves season's all in their hands right now. Potentially make ground in the standings if they so choose to do so. Of course, aforementioned Spencer Strider, Chris Sale and Spencer Schwellenbach, they're both on the IL, with Spencer Schwellenbach not anticipated come back in September. Chris Sale, they're a little bit more optimistic on his timeline coming back in August. So those are two big holes for the Atlanta Braves in their rotation. And what will be a very competitive MLB trade deadline. So many teams in the mix looking to get a chance to get those wild card playoff spots secured, potentially make a run, or at least see a chance at a couple playoff games. Of course, helps with revenue in Major League Baseball. So Marcell Ozuna, looking at the two names mentioned recently in trade rumors for the Braves. Since he was announced there a few weeks ago, turn spring and summer with the hip injury, he's been struggling, and it's been struggling mostly since April. As one of my favorite Braves players, Marcell Ozuna, he's been clutch with the home run the other day. Overall, he's been struggling this season. Not great splits over the last 15 games. Can I expect a palatable return for him and a trade move for Atlanta Braves, although seen surprising things happen. As for Raisel Iglesias, another name mentioned trade rumors for the Braves. Exactly the ticket the Braves could potentially use for a next big producer in the lineup, as he's been certainly rebounding since his struggles early in the season. His last 7 appearances have all been scoreless with only 1 hit and 1 walk. And he's appearing to shape back in the reliever we've all been accustomed to with Raisel Iglesias since he's been traded from the Angels to the Braves. A stalwart reliever, and certainly could be used in any playoff contending situation, any playoff contending team. And for one team I'd be very interested in a potential fit with a struggling bullpen is the Yankees, and acquiring Spencer Jones in return, although that would be a very optimistic return based on previous returns, but never know. Tanner Scott, he went for a bunch of guys last season. Spencer Jones for Raisel Iglesias, especially if Raisel Iglesias is the same reliever we've seen in past seasons, and he's been living up to, especially his last 7 games with the 7 scoreless appearances. That would be a potentially very beneficial trade for both teams. For Spencer Jones, he's dazzling right now in AAA with his .296 average, 23 home runs, 47 RBIs, 1.038 OPS in AAA Scranton for the Yankees this season. Maybe adding another reliever such as Aaron Bummer, maybe gets the deal across the board, as that's quite a return for Raisel Iglesias. Depending on what he's looked like over the course of the season, of course, recently, that'd certainly be an offer and deal that makes sense, although he's shown some inconsistencies. As for the Braves, not much else makes sense. Of course, aforementioned Sean Murphy, Matt Olson, Austin Riley, all playing up current contracts. Chris Sale could possibility, depending on what the return looks like the Braves. Of course, he's injured out until August, so it'd be a gamble for the team. He's under control as well for next season. Braves certainly look and hope to rebound with this bad luck they've faced this season and have a better year next year, especially with some things up in there. Philadelphia Phillies, of course, Kyle Schwarber, he's up in his contract year. JT Real Muto. So not sure what the division leading Philadelphia Phillies will do in the offseason, but things certainly look good for them right now. And things could certainly swap places next year between the Braves and the Phillies. So, as well, Dylan Lee, Pierce Johnson, under control past the season with a team option for Pierce Johnson. Dylan Lee still in arbitration. Few trade proposals I have brought up and mentioned for Pierce Johnson and Aaron Bummer as well. He's under control, contract control under the Braves as well. Potential fits: Pierce Johnson and or Aaron Bummer for Alex Freeland, shortstop of the Dodgers, and left-handed pitcher Max Bruns. Alex Freeland, he's currently in AAA there for the Dodgers, and looking like a promising prospect. Of course, they're pretty logjam there at the Dodgers and Major League talent. So it's potential, and of course they certainly need relievers, although that's a very optimistic return. Max Bruns as well, high velo lefty, very promising pitcher for the Dodgers. Probably not something unless a few more situations occur there for the Dodgers. So as well, looking at the Detroit Tigers, Pierce Johnson or Aaron Brummer for Hyu Lee, a middle infielder there for the Tigers there at the AAA level. Certainly interesting prospect. Would be a nice return. Troy Melton, Max Anderson, a couple other prospects in the organization. They could somehow conglomerate talent to get a couple of those prospects. Be very nice for the Braves. Although certainly one of Aaron Bummer does not get two of those players at one time. They have mostly a solid bullpen as well, although as far as the contenders, division leaders go, certainly not one of the best. So, as well, Carlos Hernandez has been one of the main culprits there, and the Detroit Tigers bullpen has been struggling there. Maybe, and hopefully for them, he turns around. So, as well, Kevin McConkel, their top prospect, one of the top prospects in the organization, middle infielder as well, looking like he will certainly be at major league levels here in coming years. Certainly showed out there at the prospect game over the weekend here in Atlanta. And the prospects, Gleyber Torres leaving in free agency. He only signed a 1-year contract off season. Hyu Lee could potentially be a trade piece there for the Detroit Tigers. And the Braves could potentially be a fit with one or a combination of Pierce Johnson, Aaron Bummer. Potential trade would be palatable for the Braves. So coming up next, aforementioned highlights of some of the best moments here in BOS Sports Blogcast launched last fall, including highlights this winter, Atlanta Hawks, Braves, including Beyond the Stadium segment, Kennesaw Mountain documentary, Ronald Cooney Jr.'s first rehab game with the Gwinnett Stripers there in May, and of course more. Of course, my trip to Philadelphia from last year. So be sure to stream previous episodes after you watch the remainder of this one. BOS Sports Blogcast. Listen to Bar Soap Music on Spotify. And see you very soon with more content from the Home Run Derby. I'm going there tomorrow, so hopefully see many home runs there at the Derby.
Viewable from the concourse at Truist Park behind sections 425 and 325. Just beyond the stadium at 10.5 miles away lies the Monadnock, that is Kennesaw Mountain. Boasting a modest 1,808 feet above sea level, is considered the highest point in metropolitan Atlanta, and is loaded with history from the Hadeen Eon to the Civil War, which is actually as well how the history of Kennesaw Mountain ties into the history of Major League Baseball. Before we get into the history of Kennesaw Mountain and its connection to Major League Baseball, of course, with the first Major League Baseball commissioner being named after it, Kennesaw Mountain Landis. First, take a look here at the beautiful sights of Kennesaw Mountain. Nice scenery here close Atlanta. Of course, Blue Ridge Mountain's not far away. The Kennesaw Mountain is not a part of that mountain range aforementioned. It is a Monadnock, standalone mountain here. And adjacent to it is Little Kennesaw and Pigeon Hill. It is quite a physical 1 mile to the top of Kennesaw Mountain, 1 mile straight up to that 1,808 foot summit. There's side trails all along it, different ways to cut out and carve out a nice day hiking. If you want to take a short hike, you can go up and down the mountain. As well, there's biking areas, roads. If you want to do the full Muncie, it's 16.2 miles from Visitor Center to Cold Farm and back. Not a ton of elevation, though. So here's Kennesaw Mountain Landis and the history on that. The first commissioner of Major League Baseball, Kennesaw Mountain Landis, was fathered by a man named Abraham Landis, who served as an assistant surgeon with the 35th Ohio Volunteer Infantry Regiment during the American Civil War at the Battle of Kennesaw Mountain on that fateful day of June 27th, when Abraham was severely wounded when a ricocheting cannonball struck his left leg below the knee, shattering it horribly. As a medical man himself, he likely understood the gravity of his injury. The wound required extensive hospital recovery and ended his military service, leading to his honorable discharge on September 27, 1864. But it did not prevent him from giving birth to or fathering Kennesaw Mountain Landis. His name is spelled with one N in Kennesaw. It was an interchangeable spelling at the time. It has since been formatted to the current spelling of Kennesaw with two N's. He was born on November 20th, 1866 in Millville, Ohio, where he had a long career in law, running his own corporate law practice in Chicago, as well as serving as a personal secretary to Walter Q. Grisham, Secretary of State under Grover Cleveland. It was these successes that landed Kennesaw Mountain Landis the job of judge of the United States District Court for the Northern District of Illinois. He served in this position from 1905 to 1920 and overlaps with when he became commissioner of Major League Baseball in 1920. His first prominent order of duty and primary reason for being appointed to the commissioner of baseball had to do with the scandal around the 1919 White Sox, who intentionally threw the 1919 World Series in exchange for money from gamblers, involved at least 8 players accused, including the legend Shoeless Joe Jackson. Gambling at the time, Major League Baseball was a widespread problem, and the 1919 World Series was a breaking point for the league and Major League Baseball. Kennesaw Mountain was voted to be appointed by the 8 Major League Baseball owners at the time to be a commissioner, a small committee in November 2020, with the owners stating they wanted an iron fist ruling over the game, and with Landis, they got that, as Landis shortly stated he would as well. The day after the Black Sox, nicknamed the team from the 1919 World Series who threw the series, they were found not guilty in a trial by jury on August 2nd, 1921. The day after, on August 3rd, Kennesaw Mountain Landis issued a statement banning the 8 accused White Sox players, including Shoeless Joe Jackson, from the game of baseball for life. Kennesaw Mountain Landis issued this statement: regardless of the verdict of juries, no player that throws a ball game, no player that undertakes or promises to throw a ball game, no player that sits in a conference room with a bunch of crooked players and gamblers where they ways and means of throwing ball games are planned and discussed, does not promptly tell his club about, will ever play professional baseball. Of course, I don't know any of these men will apply for reinstatement, but if they do, the above are at least a few of the rules that will be enforced. Just keep in mind that, regardless of the verdict of juries, baseball is competent to protect itself against crooks both inside and outside the game. Players from the 1919 White Sox, they attempted to appeal the ban several times, including shortly after when Buck Weaver reached out directly to Commissioner Landis appealing for reinstatement. Shoeless Joe Jackson as well argued innocence, citing his .375 batting average in the series and that he was innocent in accusations. As Landis stated, and the owners of Major League Baseball stated when they appointed him to rule over Major League Baseball with an iron fist, he denied every attempt for reinstatement by those White Sox players. So we've now successfully hiked up Kennesaw Mountain, as we've seen in our pictures and videos. We're now looking about to start looking towards Little Kennesaw Mountain. Little Kennesaw Mountain is 1,601 feet in elevation. Its elevation is quite a bit further spread out than Big Kennesaw, providing for different workout experience if you're going to hike that area. For that, as many people do daily, locals certainly make it a part of their routine, weekly, monthly, daily routine to visit the mountain, get their exercise in. As you'll even see bikers on the road. Be careful for those cyclists. They go pretty fast on the road around the mountain there. The summit is a highly popular area of Big Kennesaw Mountain. It does have a parking area. You can drive up it when the road is accessible during operational hours. Even during weekdays, you'd see quite a crowd there. A nice sunny day, such as this was in May. Before we end our story on Kennesaw Mountain Land, just enjoy some sights, sounds, and more information here about Kennesaw Mountain and the National Recreation Battlefield area. And here we go. Now we're leaving Big Kennesaw Mountain, about to climb down from Big Kennesaw and make the hike up to Little Kennesaw Mountain. There's history all along the trail, as well nature as well. Have to keep your eyes peeled, sights, sounds, never know what you'll find. And of course, there's certainly very gruesome reminders of the battles that occurred there. There's very fierce fighting for summit Big Kennesaw Mountain, although most of the fighting, some of the heaviest fighting occurred in Pigeon Hill, Chatham Hill regions, and some of the more fieldy areas. You'll see a lot of the trenches there, and even some stains on rocks in certain areas. Before you know it, you're at this road. It splits Big and Little Kennesaw. Aforementioned, watch out for those cyclists. They go pretty fast. Here's how the trail leading up to Little Kennesaw Mountain looks. Aforementioned, it's more of a tempered slope. As well, you did not quite climb all the way down from Big Kennesaw Mountain. So, a little bit of the elevation is already out of the way already. Back half of Little Kennesaw Mountain from Pigeon Hill. As we're seeing in this shot here, is quite rocky and provides quite a unique workout compared to the Big Kennesaw Mountain. It's a very rocky trail on back half of Little Kennesaw Mountain, as we'll see later in these pictures and videos coming here. But here is Little Kennesaw Mountain as viewed from Pigeon Hill. Enjoy. continue our story on Kennesaw Mountain Landis, I have to talk a little bit about the battle in which his father, Abraham Landis, was injured in. The Battle of Kennesaw Mountain primarily fought on June 27, 1864, during the American Civil War, pivotal movement in the Atlanta campaign occurring in northwest Georgia near present-day Kennesaw Mountain National Battlefield Park in Cobb County, about 25 miles from downtown Atlanta. Union forces Major General William T. Sherman, with about 100,000 Union troops, confronted Confederate forces led by General Joseph E. Johnson, commanding about 63,000 Confederate troops along a fortified line centered on Kennesaw Mountain. The main Union assault targeted the Confederate positions around the mountain's southern slopes, particularly near Pigeon Hill and Chatham Hill, now key areas, National Battlefield Park. So if you want to walk a bit of a historic hike and a little bit such as the Union did in their battle, you'd park at Chatham Hill and then walk and do the hike to Big Kennesaw, such as Union forces did back in 1864. Preserve site. General Sherman's failed frontal assault resulted nearly 3,000 Union casualties compared to 1,000 Confederate losses, but subsequent flanking maneuvers forced Johnson's retreat toward Atlanta by early July. During the Battle of Kennesaw Mountain on June 27th, the Union forces under General William T. Sherman launched a direct assault on Confederate fortifications along Big Kennesaw and surrounding ridges, a departure from Sherman's typical flanking strategy, which he would eventually turn back to and succeed with that. The attack focused on three key points along the Confederate line, which stretched along Big Kennesaw, Little Kennesaw, adjacent areas such as Pigeon Hill and Chatham Hill, now part of the Kennesaw Mountain National Battlefield Park as a whole. The main assault on Big Kennesaw came from Sherman deploying two columns from frontal attack. The primary assault targeted the southern slopes of Big Kennesaw Mountain, where Confederate General Joseph E. Johnson had positioned well-entrenched troops, including artillery, commanders like Lieutenant William Hardy, as you'll see under signs there along the park, and Union divisions and army from the Cumberland, led by General George H. Thomas, advanced uphill against steep terrain and heavy Confederate defenses, such as the cannon which Kennesaw Mountain Landis's father, Abraham Landis, was injured with. The rugged slopes of the Pigeon Hill of the Big Kennesaw, combined with Confederate earthworks and artillery, made the assault particularly challenging, resulting heavy Union casualties and little progress. Along Pigeon Hill, south of Big Kennesaw Mountain, Union troops from the Army, Tennessee, under General James E. McPherson, attacked Confederate forces in Pigeon Hill, a rocky outcrop near Little Kennesaw, terrain covered with dense underbrush and boulders, such as we see pictured earlier. Chatham Hill and Dead Angles, where some of the most fierce fighting occurred, where Union troops from the Army of the Cumberland, specifically under Brigadier General John Newton's division and Colonel Daniel McCook's brigade, assaulted a fortified Confederate salient known as the Dead Angle. Confederate defenders, primarily under General Benjamin F. Cheatham division, held a strong position with breastworks and clear fields of fire. Union soldiers faced devastating volleys and artillery barrages, suffering heavy casualties. McCook himself was mortally wounded despite breaching from some defenses. The Union attack stalled, unable to overturn the entrenched Confederate positions. The Union's frontal assault on Big Kennesaw and its associated positions was largely unsuccessful due to Confederate fortifications, difficulty of defense tactics. Sherman's forces suffered approximately 3,000 casualties compared to Confederates' 1,000. Recognizing futility of further direct assaults, Sherman reverted to his flanking strategy maneuvering around Johnson's left flank towards Marietta, forcing the Confederates to withdraw towards Atlanta by early July. Attack on Big Kennesaw Mountain highlighted the challenges of assaulting entrenched positions and shaped Sherman's subsequent campaign tactics. After getting through the rocky western back half of the Little Kennesaw Mountain Trail, you then face a slight upward incline, getting up to Pigeon Hill, which is 1,240 feet itself. The Atlanta Piedmont sits around 600 to 700 feet, so these elevations are taken with a little bit of grain of salt here. But Pigeon Hill is one of the nicer areas aesthetically. There are a lot of nice rocks. Of course, this is where some of the most fierce fighting of the entire campaign occurred, and there's gruesome reminders along everywhere of some of the fighting that occurred in this area. But it is one of the most beautiful areas of the park. You see downtown Atlanta on a clear day and fall day. The leaves start to fall. This is earlier in the spring when there's not quite so many leaves. You can see the other mountain ridges from the top of Pigeon Hill very easily. Reminds me a little bit Boundary Waters in Minnesota. A lot of exposed rocks, rocky areas. Depending on how you cut out your day, this could be towards the end of your day. You're coming down Pigeon Hill and coming into the Pigeon Hill parking lot area as pictured here. But for those serious hikers, you can continue on, do the full 16.2 mile trek. From here on out, it's mostly historic related. There's not a ton of nature scenery. There are some nice fields, of course, the battlefields where those very fierce battles occurred. There's no ball playing, no football playing, no horseplay on those battlefields, as they like to keep a reverent, respectful vibe there at the park. But as you walk along there towards the Lincoln Monument and further on to Kolb Farm, the nature all along, have to keep your eyes peeled as well. I see some ruins of previously existing buildings, including old churches, as about to picture here. Keep your eyes peeled for nature aforementioned. There's some kind of beehive looking thing up in a tree. Maybe just some giant knot on a tree. Either way, pretty interesting. Maybe it's hit by a cannonball. Probably not. As well, you can see trenches. There's signs all along the trail to give you information, historical information. Of course, smartphones now, you can look it up, see it instantly. Aforementioned, keep your eyes peeled for nature, as we see here. You see many wild deer along the way. Never get close enough to picture very easily unless you have great zoom. But here's a nice video of a deer here. been to the park many times, and here I captured a moment, not sure if I've seen before. Here is a wild tractor cutting the grass. I guess they gotta cut the grass sometime. Not sure if I've ever seen them do it. There it is. They do it with the tractor. It drives between the trails. If you hear it, if you see it, watch out. The disappointment and impact on the band players was well documented. Some very emotionally compelling cases for some players, including Shoeless Joe Jackson. Although it was as well documented that Kennesaw Mountain Landis' severance of those 8 accused White Sox players of throwing the 1919 World Series reinstated the public's trust into Major League Baseball and the game of baseball, which helped grow it into the game it is today. Kennesaw Mountain Landis would serve as Major League Baseball commissioner until his death in 1944. 81 years after the passing of Kennesaw Mountain Landis, current commissioner of Major League Baseball, Rob Manfred, has, as a part of a broader action, removed deceased players from the permanently ineligible list, which effectively reinstates the 1919 White Sox and Shoeless Joe Jackson. Shoeless Joe Jackson is now eligible to be inducted to Major League Baseball's Hall of Fame. It will be interesting to see in the near future if they get in, if Shoeless Joe Jackson gets in, Pete Rose gets in, all those kinds of discussion, as all deceased players who were on the permanently ineligible list are now eligible again. As you make your way to Cold Farm, you'll pass by the Lincoln Monument. Of course, plenty of cannons all along the trail. The cannons on top of Big Kennesaw, Little Kennesaw, Pigeon Hill, and cannons everywhere. Cannon near Lincoln Monument as well. So here ends our day at the Kennesaw Mountain National Battlefield Recreation Area. A nice area to visit. Very scenic areas. Of course, fields like this, sobering reminder of gruesome battles that occurred there, of course, during the Civil War. Very cool to tie in the history of Major League Baseball and man named after it, Kennesaw Mountain Landis, named after his mother, Mary, fathered by Abraham Landis, who battled for Ohio as a surgeon and had his leg broken in the battle. This area is just a short drive from Truist Park, and of course is just beyond the stadium.
So here we go. May 15th, Charlotte Knights, Gwinnett Stripers. Ronald Cunha Jr. is back. His first rehab game had to go. There he is at second base after this double. I'm just going to have to take in the sights and sounds there at Coolray Field as Ronald Cunha Jr. doubles in his first game. Here we go. Clip was booing as the pitcher was throwing him many balls, not many balls to hit. The crowd wanted to see Ronald Cunha get a hit, and they certainly came away happy after this at bat. Ronald did his patented grenade celebration. I was amped up, chanting MVP. Did not have many chances to do that in 2024. Of course, he went in 23. $2 beer, $2 hot night there at Coolray Field. Long lines of concessions, but they were $2. So here's another Ronald Cunha at bat. Nice day there at Coolray Field. I live on the east side of town. It still took me about an hour to get there with traffic. Not very close. Certainly going to Truist Park, a lot more convenient, at least for people like me who live in town. High fly ball. Gonna be popped up to first base. There's my feet. All right. Braves Nationals, May 12th. The Braves were 19-21 coming into this game. Alex Verdugo got the walk-off hit. It was a great game. Beautiful scenes there at Truist Park there in the bottom of the sixth inning. We'd have both that at bat with Nick Allen later. As well, I have Alex Verdugo's walk-off hit. Video of that. We'll see in just a couple minutes. But here's Matt Olson, bottom of the third inning. In what was a key sequence. First ball pitched to him. Change up. Called strike. Foul ball, second pitch, 88.9 mile per hour cutter. Count is now 0-2 versus Jake Irvin. Jake Irvin certainly given the Braves fits in years past. It's nice to finally pick up a win on him, although he would not get the decision after National stormed back in the eighth inning and tied it. Third pitch, foul ball. They're going to have to run back. Austin Riley going to have to go all the way back first base. At least he took the short route. 90.8 mile per hour four-seam fastball. Count is still 0-2 for Matt Olson. Matt Olson would have 2 hits in the series as he's been very streaky this year. But this was a key sequence for the Braves as later in the inning, Marcell Ozuna and Michael Harris would both have RBI hits, scoring 2 of the Braves' 4 runs on the day. Pitch, right up the middle, base hit. All right. 86.3 mile per hour changeup. I have noted, document Braves struggles with 12-6 break. No struggle there as Jake Irvin has a nice changeup. Off-speed pitch that is. But still with some 12-6 movement. Was pretty high up there. Could not quite see if that was one of Jake Irvin's better pitches. So here, all the way in right field, bottom 6th inning, Nick Allen at bat versus Jake Irvin. Pretty hard to see from here, to be honest. They look like ants down there from this right field view. Foul ball, 90.9 power per hour sinker. Count is now 2-2 for Nick Allen. Nick Allen would have an 8-pitch at bat. Very productive. Always like to see Jake Irvin's pitch count go up whenever he faces the Braves. He made it all the way 6 innings. This is Jake Irvin still pitching. Very solid pitcher there for the Nationals. Certainly gives the Braves fits, and he will for many years to come. Unless the Braves can get the better of him. And here, ground ball. Jake Irvin, the first baseman. Nick Allen's out. All right, here it is. The moment of the game. Alex Verdugo, walk-off hit. Alex Verdugo, he had a nice series versus the Nationals. He had 4 hits over those 4 games, fairly productive. And, of course, here with the game-winning RBI hit. He was hitting 252 at the time, or 250, excuse me, was Alex Verdugo's average on May 12th. Here he is with 1 ball, 1 strike. On Andrew Chafin, who's got a 4 ERA this year. Certainly was an interesting option. I advocated at times for the Braves. He's certainly not doing as well as others, such as Tommy Naily. I'd hope the pros in the front office pick up talent like that. Here comes the pitch. Swinging strike, 80.2 mile per hour on a slider. Count is 1-2 now. Chafin, he threw Alex Verdugo 7 straight sliders until he finally threw him a sinker. Pitch, ball in the dirt, 2-2, 81.1 mile per hour slider. That's 7 sliders he'd throw to Verdugo before he threw his 8th pitch, a sinker, and the walk-off hit. Here comes the pitch. And walk back the runner there. Stepping off the mound, checking Eli White. Don't want Eli White to steal third. Here comes the pitch. Fouled. 81.7 mile per hour slider. Count remains 2-2. Eli White, he reached base on a single earlier that inning and was advanced on Nick Allen ground out. The Nationals had a different pitcher to start the inning and switched to Andrew Chafin for Alex Verdugo here in this clutch situation. Pitch number 6, ball in the dirt, 82.1 mile per hour slider. Count 3-2. A $4 beer night. They also had reduced ticket prices. Imagine we'll probably see more of that if the Braves continue downward. And their current trajectory is now June 3rd. They're not doing so hot, unfortunately. This was a fun time, middle of May. They're certainly winning many games. Here comes the pitch. 7th pitch, 81.6 mile per hour slider. Count remains 3-2. Fouled off by Alex Verdugo. And hopefully they bring back the $4 beer nights and make them tall boys. I thought, High Life, of course they can't sell the brand names, Miller Lite or Coors Light, for that reduced price. Walk-off hit, Alex Verdugo. In play runs. 90.5 mile per hour sinker off of Andrew Chafin to give the Braves the walk-off victory. Dugout storms on the field in celebration. Here comes Blooper with the flag in the outfield. Fireworks going off. Stadium's definitely not packed, especially compared to what we saw at Citizens Bank last week. But everyone there was happy to get home on time, of course. Braves win 4-3 and improve to 20-21 on the year. We're currently at June 3rd, 2025, and the Braves have only won 3 of their last 10 games, losing 7, and are currently standing at 27-32. 5 games under 500, although it feels like more. 10.5 games back of the first place Mets. And it's just been a very tough season, but this was a great game to go to. I certainly enjoyed it. Hard not to with $4 Miller High Life night. Make it $4 Coors Light night. If they have to be 12 ounces, why not? There's Blooper with the flag. There's the radio and TV booths, whatnot. Here we are, checking out visitor side. Still on the visitor side. And this picture forecast upcoming segment coming here on BOS Sports Blogcast. So here we go. Braves Cardinals, April 22nd at Truist Park. Here's Scott Blewett versus Nolan Gorman. Top the first inning. Gorman, of course, had the key hit in the eighth. First pitch, foul. 84.7 mile per hour slider. Despite his potentially comical name, Scott Blewett has been solid for the Braves in his 3 appearances so far. His last 2 have been scoreless versus the Rockies and Diamondbacks, combined 2.1 innings. Here comes the 0-1 pitch. Fouled, coming straight back at me. Ooh, landed right below me there. Thought I had a chance. I'm pretty high up there, so. And that was 84.1 mile per hour splitter. Scott Blewett has Nolan Gorman down the count early here. This would be the only game where Scott Blewett has allowed runs so far for the Braves in his 3 appearances. Here's the 0-2 pitch. Ball, 93.8 mile per hour fastball. We now have 1 ball and 2 strikes. Blewett went 3 innings, allowed 4 hits in this game, 2 runs, 2 walks. This is the only strikeout here. 1-2 pitch. Another ball, high and tight, looked like. 94 mile per hour fastball. 2-2. The count is now even. Nolan Gorman, aforementioned, 3-run RBI single top the 8th, break the game open. Ugh. Tough for us Braves fans, that game. 2-2 pitch. Ball. 85.4 mile per hour splitter. We now have a full count of 3-2. Cardinals would score 6 in the last 2 tops of the innings on their way to the 10-4 victory. It was not a fun game. I booed pretty loud. 3-2 pitch, swinging strike, 84.3 miles per hour. That was booing. All those runs came across the plate. I booed as loud as possible. I booed for 10 people, if that is possible. So it was a great night otherwise. Always the best 2 times of the year to go to Truist Park, or in the spring early, and in October when it's cool, nice temperature for drinking beverages. In the 60s, 70s. Kind of temperatures there. It got a little bit rainy. I don't mind. I like a little bit of drizzle. And here we get some Braves batting average. Braves batting action. Here's Jared Kelenic at the plate versus Andre Palante. Bottom of the 2nd inning. First pitch, swinging strike. We have Orlando Arcia there on deck. And here comes 0-1 pitch. Might have been the 0-2 pitch. It looked like ball and dirt there. 1-2 count. 87.3 mile per hour slider. Palante gave up all the runs for the Cardinals that day, as Cardinals bullpen was scoreless, and Palante gave up the 4 runs. Here's the 1-2 pitch. Foul ball. 94.2 mile per hour fastball. Jared Kelenic, he was just sent down to AAA today. Tough news for Jared Kelenic. 1-2 pitch, another ball. Got an even count on 76 mile per hour knuckle curve. Beat writer Gabe Burns was quoted as saying, interview from Jared Kelenic, that he was in high spirits and looking at it as an opportunity. So hopefully that's a positive thing. Hopefully he comes back strong. The Braves will need outfielders in the second half. They'll need position players, even with Ronald Acuna Jr. coming back. Can't wait till that happens. And so here is now the 3-2 pitch, full count. Foul ball, high and tight, 95.4 mile per hour fastball. And tough news with Jared Kelenic being sent down to AAA. Aforementioned, Halfley comes back strong. Andre Palante and Orlando Arcia, he's there in the batter's box. So Kelenic, he would, on a 3-2 pitch, ground out. I wanted to mention Arcia is standing quite a far ways outside of that on-deck circle. It's something I noticed all game. The Braves hitters were a little bit further out than I've seen them before. They seem to do that a little bit more situationally, but this game, they were often out there. So it was a nice game otherwise, other than the blown lead. Don't remind me. The one game I get to go to in the April. And so I got the general admissions ticket. I like to move around whenever I get that. A few different upper deck sections. I got to check out the outfield, get some pictures there. Don't like to get on my phone too much, but I got a little bit of pictures and video. And so here we have an Austin Riley at bat. Alex Verdugo just doubled and got on base. And Austin Riley's about to drive him in here. So we got a ball there. I believe we're on the 2-2 pitch now. And we got a ball in the dirt, which allows Alex Verdugo to get the third base. Full count. Here we go. Austin Riley up the middle. Single scoring. Verdugo. Braves up at that point. Getting the Braves a 3-2 lead. Would not be the last run that Andre Palante gave up on the day. Unfortunately, did not get either of the home runs. That kind of stunk. Can't take a video of the whole game. Have to sit there and enjoy it. So here, 23 Braves division titles. Can they win another one this year? The Mets, they have quite a way to catch up the Mets. Of course, the Phillies are in it, but the Mets are having some drama up there with one of their players they signed in the offseason. So So here we go, back from August 30th. My trip to Philadelphia, seeing Phillies, Braves, August 30th, a game which the Braves won 7-2. 6-pitch, Joe Jimenez to Bryce Harper here. The bottom of the 8th inning, 1-2 pitch, fouled off, 87-mile-an-hour slider. Bryce Harper had a 10-pitch at-bat. We're really going to miss Joe Jimenez in 2025. Of course, he was announced last fall, being announced out for the year. Here comes a 7-pitch, 2-2. Slider down, ball. And here comes the 8th pitch to Bryce Harper. Joe Jimenez in 2024 had a 2.62 ERA, a sub-1 whip with 0.99, and 68.2 innings pitched. Another ball, 3-2. Count to Bryce Harper, fastball up. 95.8 miles an hour. Really wish the Braves would sign another high leverage righty. There's still Kyle Finnegan, Luis Garcia out there for the Braves here on this date of February 12th, 2025. 9th pitch to Bryce Harper, 95 mile an hour fastball. And it was an absolutely brilliant inning by Joe Jimenez. You get 3 out of the 4 batters faced out, including there's, I believe, a fan ran on the field. So here Bryce Harper goes up the middle to Michael Harris, center field, base hit. But here's another video from that night. Interesting thing that the Phillies did. They had an Elvis entertainer there. Don't have much comments for this. It was a nice, cool night there. A windy breeze. It's nice being in Philadelphia. Cool air, cool weather. I'd like to go back there. Citizens Bank Park. In the summer heat of Atlanta in the August. Perfect weather to eat, drink outside. It's a cool 60-ish degrees. Can even dip into the upper 50s a little bit. Get a little bit nippy. But it's a nice change of pace from the summer heat, the 90s, 100s of Atlanta. Here you see the bullpen chilling out there. I'm sure they enjoy cooling off a little bit. Here's Brian Snitker, the Braves dugout. You can see Max Fried. Miss him. Marcell Ozuna at bat, wearing the yellow protective gear. Grant Holmes, we'll see what kind of year he has for Atlanta Braves this season. And here's some pictures from April. And here's AJ Smith's shopper from 2023. We'll see if he continues to grow. He's been really growing athletically. Ronald Acuna Jr., hope he comes back strong this year. So here we go. Dodgers Braves, September 16th. Had to go. Tickets were inexpensive. Shohei Ohtani, Max Fried. It's up the middle. Whit Merrifield comes home. Miguel Rojas is safe. Part of a 9-0 Dodgers defeat over the Braves. Hope the Braves have more success over the Dodgers in 2025. And here as well some more pictures from my trip to Philadelphia, late August. Aforementioned, that weather was nice. Michael Harris had that absolute highlight catch. Did not get that on video, unfortunately. Before we get to Dyson, it's a bit what it's like to go to the game opening introductions with the Georgia natural gas flamethrower. You can feel that thing from your seat. All right, getting into Dyson Daniels. There he is on the graphic screen there. Here we go. He starts out with a nice pick and roll play with Onyeka and Kagwu. Onyeka sets the pick, passes to Onyeka in the lane, basket. A nice floater there. Dyson, very aggressive here. Drive to the basket, missed it. Toomey passes here. The Hawks get it back off the Larry Nance miss. Offensive rebound. And passes to Onyeka, to Veet, to Bogey. And then over to Dyson Daniels in the corner. And he should have shot there, but he passed again, resulting in turnover. And nice drive here by Dyson. The Hawks, this is their first game without Jalen Johnson out. They're kind of reeling, figuring out different things to do on offense. Here, Onyeka on Kagwu, he had a drive in the lane as Larry Nance Jr. set an off-ball screen for Veet Krejci. He liked to take a shot. As Veet was absolutely on fire in this game. He had 6 3-point shots, 4 in the first half. I happened to record all 4 of them. There's his first. Here comes his second here. Drive, kick, Larry Nance. Screen, Larry Nance. Shot, Veet Krejci gets to the spot. Hits down the 3-point shot there. Here comes Veet again. Gets to the spot right there. And here he is again. They let him wide open. Mistake. So after I mentioned, the Hawks trying to figure out their offense with Jalen Johnson out, Zachary Reese out, as well. DeAndre Hunter was out this game. Here comes Trey on a drive. He tries to lob it to Clint Capella. Clint did not quite get there. Maybe a bit of miscommunication. Turnover. Raptors get fouled on the other end. So here comes the next play. The Hawks inbound it. And Trae Young's going to bring up the floor. Get a nice fast break opportunity. Try to dish it to Clint Capel in the lane. The ball slips out. And Trey gets it back. Nice floaty shot. Gets the basket. So here comes Dyson Daniels, bringing the ball up the floor. We see him play some point guard with Kobe Buffkin out for the rest of the season. Pass on Onyeka Okongwu. Screen for Garrison Matthews. Three-pointer. Bang. Down. Good to see Garrison Matthews hit a three-point shot after struggling a bit for last week. Another play. V. Krejci bringing the ball up the floor. He plays some point guard as well. Another screen play for Garrison Matthews. That one's off. So here comes Bogey on the drive. He's going to get blocked on a shot, get the ball back, pass it to V. Krejci here in the corner. He's going to swing around to Dyson. Like to see Dyson make the shot. Fortunately, that's his spot. Like to see him hit those. Here comes Dyson bringing the ball up the floor. Again. Swings around to Larry Nance Jr. in the corner. V. Krejci here on the three-point line. Back to Larry Nance in the post. It's going to be a 24-shot violation. Larry Nance, you got to get the ball up there and take a shot. And another Hawks turnover. The Hawks would have 22 turnovers in this game. Here's another one. Ugh. Dyson stepping out of bounds. And the pass to the corner. Here comes Dyson again. Bring the ball up the floor. Trae Young the game. Pass to Larry Nance. Good screen there. Drives it in the lane. Pass on Onyeka Okongwu in the corner. Hits the three-point shot. Onyeka's been more solid from three recently. Good to see. Trae Young, interesting. Here we go. Last play, the first half for Atlanta Hawks. 22 seconds left. Trae is inbounding it. Baseline. Beat Krejci's going to come off a screen set by Dyson Daniels. Swallow. Runs into Portal there. But Dyson Daniels, he's fouled. They're in the lane. Loose ball.